Ambassador Zethkree's crystalline form shimmered with barely contained excitement as she approached the grand assembly hall of the Galactic Council. The massive structure, carved from a single asteroid and positioned at the gravitational center of the Andromeda Milky Way junction, had witnessed countless historic moments over the past millennium. Today would be another such moment, though perhaps not in the way the Council expected. The Council chambers buzzed with anticipation. Representatives from over 300 species filled the tiered seating arrangement, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, telepathic hums, and bioluminescent flashes. At the center of it all sat the High Arbiters, 5 ancient beings whose species had founded the Council eons ago. Today, announced High Arbiter Veltar through the Universal Translator Network, we address the situation regarding the primitive world designated as Sol 3, locally known as Earth. A collective murmur rippled through the assembly. Earth had been a topic of growing concern for several cycles now. The small blue planet orbited an unremarkable yellow star in what most considered a backwater region of the galaxy. Its inhabitants, called humans, had only recently achieved faster-than-light communication and were still decades away from proper interstellar travel. Zethkree's homeworld, Christos, had been monitoring Earth for the past 50 Earth years. Like many Council members, they viewed humans as a curiosity, a species that showed promise but remained frustratingly primitive. Humans had split the atom, reached their moon, and created basic artificial intelligence, but they still fought among themselves over resources and ideological differences. The matter before us, continued Veltar, concerns the recent expansion of the hegemony collective into the Sol system's outer regions. At the mention of the hegemony, the chamber's atmosphere grew tense. The collective was not a council member, but a rogue federation of militant species that had been expanding aggressively across several spiral arms. They respected no sovereignty and recognized no authority beyond their own military might. Councillor Mordak, a towering insectoid representative, raised one of his forearms. The hegemony has established mining operations on the asteroid belt surrounding Sol 3. They claim salvage rights over what they term space debris in an unclaimed system. Unclaimed? Interrupted Representative Karan, her scaled features flushing purple with indignation. The humans have already sent probes throughout their system. They have established settlements on their moon and are planning missions to their 4th planet. By all accepted protocols, this constitutes a territorial claim. The debate that followed was heated, but predictable. Some council members argued that humans were too primitive to warrant protection under interstellar law. Others insisted that potential sentience deserved the same rights as established species. A few suggested that intervention would violate the prime directive of non-interference with developing civilizations. Zethkree found herself growing increasingly frustrated with the circular arguments. Her people had been studying human transmissions for decades, and what they had discovered was far more interesting than most council members realized. Humans possessed something rare in the galaxy, an almost pathological refusal to surrender in the face of overwhelming odds. If I may, she finally interjected, her crystalline voice cutting through the debate. Perhaps we should consider what the humans themselves think about this situation. High Arbiter Veltar's ancient eyes fixed upon her. Elaborate, Counselor Zethkree. My research team has been monitoring human communications networks. They are aware of the hegemony presence. 3 days ago, their various government leaders held emergency sessions. Yesterday, they issued a joint statement. The chamber fell silent. The idea that primitives might have opinions about galactic politics was almost amusing to most council members. They demanded that the unknown vessels leave their system within 72 of their hours, or face what they termed appropriate defensive measures. A ripple of what could only be described as laughter moved through the assembly. Councillor Mordak's mandibles clicked in amusement. Defensive measures? Against hegemony battle cruisers? What do they possibly threaten us with chemical rockets? Zethkree's form dimmed slightly, a sign of concern among her species. That's precisely what worries me, Counselor. My people have studied human history extensively. When faced with superior forces, humans don't typically surrender. They adapt, improvise, and often do things that shouldn't be possible. Representative Karen leaned forward. Surely you're not suggesting these primitives pose any real threat to the hegemony? I'm suggesting, Zeth Kree replied carefully, that we may have seriously underestimated what humans are capable of when cornered. 3 times in their recent history, small groups of humans have defeated vastly superior forces through sheer determination and tactical innovation. High Arbiter Veltar raised a gnarled appendage for silence. The Council's concern is not with human military capabilities, which are negligible, but with the precedents set by hegemony expansion. If we allow them to claim systems with developing sentience, where does it end? The debate continued for another hour before the Council reached its typical conclusion. More study was needed. A monitoring committee would be established to observe the situation and report back within 1 galactic standard month. In the meantime, no action would be taken. As the session adjourned, Zeth Kree lingered in the chamber, studying the holographic display of the Sol system that remained floating above the central platform. The hegemony had deployed 12 battle cruisers and 43 mining platforms. Against them, Earth could field perhaps a few dozen spacecraft that were barely capable of reaching their own moon. By any rational calculation, it would be a massacre. Yet something about the human transmissions her team had intercepted troubled her deeply. There had been no panic in the voices of their leaders, no desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, she had detected something that her species' emotional sensors identified as grim determination mixed with what humans apparently called righteous anger. Her assistant, a young Christosian named Zimtel, approached with a data pad. Ambassador, the latest intelligence reports from our deep space monitors. Zeth Kree accepted the device and immediately understood why Zimtel looked so concerned. The hegemony fleet had responded to Earth's ultimatum by moving 3 battle cruisers in a high orbit around the planet itself, a clear show of force meant to intimidate the humans into submission. Earth's response had been swift and completely unexpected. Every major population center on the planet had simultaneously gone dark to electronic surveillance. Their military communications had switched to quantum-encrypted channels that even Council technology couldn't easily penetrate. Most strangely, human civilian spacecraft, including commercial satellites and research stations, had begun moving into defensive formations around critical infrastructure. Ambassador Zimtel whispered, "I've been analyzing the movement patterns of human vessels. They're not random. There's a coordination here that suggests a level of strategic planning we didn't think they possessed." Zeth Kree studied the data more closely. Her young assistant was right. The humans were repositioning assets with the precision of a species that had been planning for interstellar conflict for years, not days. "Send an encrypted message to our monitoring station in the Proximus system," she ordered. "I want full spectrum analysis of everything happening in Sol." And Zimtel, "Yes, Ambassador. Tell them to maintain a safe distance. I have a feeling we're about to witness something unprecedented." Meanwhile, 3 light years away in the Sol system, Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the command center of the newly constructed Earth Defense Platform, a facility that officially didn't exist and had been built in secret over the past 15 years. Around her, the finest military minds from every Earth nation worked in unprecedented cooperation. "Status report," she ordered. Colonel Yuki Tanaka looked up from his station. "All stealth platforms are in position. The hegemony ships are maintaining high orbit, just as our models predicted. They're scanning for military installations, but can't penetrate our new electromagnetic shielding. They still think we're primitives," Admiral Chen observed. "How long before they realize their mistake?" Dr. Marcus Webb, the project's chief scientist, consulted his tablet. "Based on their scanning patterns, I estimate another 6 hours before they detect the mass drivers. 12 hours before they realize what the orbital platforms actually are." Admiral Chen nodded grimly. Humanity had indeed been preparing for this day, though not in the way the Galactic Council imagined. For decades, human scientists had worked under the assumption that first contact would be hostile. The evidence was everywhere in their own history. Whenever a technologically superior civilization encountered a primitive one, the results were rarely pleasant for the primitives. So humanity had prepared accordingly. The stealth platforms surrounding Earth weren't actually stealthy in the traditional sense. Instead, they used a principle that human engineers had discovered quite by accident. It was possible to hide advanced technology by making it look primitive. The orbital installations appeared to be simple communications satellites or research stations, but each one contained weapons systems that pushed the absolute limits of human engineering. Admiral, called Lieutenant Commander Park from the communications station, we're receiving a transmission from the lead hegemony vessel. Put it through. The alien voice that filled the command center was translated by humanity's most advanced AI systems. Primitive inhabitants of Sol 3. You have been warned to cease your defensive preparations. We claim this system under hegemony law. Surrender now, and your species will be preserved as a labor force. Continue your resistance and face extinction. Admiral Chun exchanged glances with her senior staff. In the background, she could hear similar conversations taking place in command centers across Earth, in Beijing, Moscow, London, New Delhi, and dozens of other locations. Humanity had spent the last century learning to work together in the face of external threats. Today would be the ultimate test of that cooperation. Open a channel, she ordered. Channel open, Admiral. Admiral Chun stepped forward, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's response to the stars. This is Admiral Sarah Chun, speaking for the United Earth Defense Coalition. You have entered our system without permission and issued threats against our people. You have 72 hours to withdraw beyond the heliosphere boundary. This is your only warning. The alien response was immediate and predictably dismissive. Your weapons cannot harm our vessels, primitive. Our shields can withstand your most powerful nuclear devices. Your spacecraft cannot even reach us at our current altitude. Admiral Chun smiled grimly. Then, you have nothing to worry about. 71 hours and 58 minutes remaining. As the channel closed, Dr. Webb approached the Admiral. Sarah, are you certain about this? If we're wrong about their defensive capabilities. Marcus, she interrupted, humanity didn't survive ice ages, plagues, and world wars by backing down when things looked impossible. Besides, our analysis of their technology shows clear limitations they probably don't even realize they have. The next several hours would determine whether humanity's greatest gamble would pay off, or whether Earth would become another footnote in the hegemony's expansion across the galaxy. But, for now, Admiral Chun felt something she hadn't experienced since this crisis began: hope. Because humanity had one advantage that no other species in the galaxy seemed to possess. When faced with impossible odds, humans didn't just fight back. They got creative. 68 hours later, aboard the hegemony flagship Devastator's Edge, Fleet Commander Kethvar reviewed the tactical displays with growing confusion. His species, the Vor-Thak, had conquered 17 star systems using the same intimidation tactics that had served them well for centuries. Primitive species typically surrendered within hours of seeing hegemony firepower, and those foolish enough to resist were quickly eliminated by overwhelming technological superiority. But these humans continued to puzzle him. Status of their defensive preparations? He barked at his subordinates. Tactical Officer Remnock consulted his instruments. Unchanged, Commander. They maintain the same primitive orbital platforms and have made no attempts to evacuate population centers. Our scans still show no significant weapons systems capable of penetrating our shields. Kethvar's 4 eyes narrowed, and yet they persist in their resistance. Have they attempted any communication? Negative, sir. They sent one additional transmission 6 hours ago. Merely a countdown timer showing time remaining until their arbitrary deadline. Fools, Kethvar snarled. Very well. When their meaningless deadline expires, we begin bombardment of their major cities. 3 orbital strikes should convince them of their folly. What the hegemony fleet couldn't detect was the frenetic activity taking place throughout human space. In hidden facilities on Luna, Mars, and the asteroid belt, manufacturing systems that had been dormant for years roared to life. The orbital platforms that appeared so primitive to alien scanners were, in fact, the visible portion of humanity's most audacious military project. Each communications satellite was connected by quantum entanglement transmitters to massive manufacturing complexes hidden within hollowed-out asteroids. For the past 15 years, human engineers had been perfecting a production system that could fabricate advanced weapons components instantly across interplanetary distances. Dr. Elizabeth Reyes floated in the zero-gravity environment of Ceres Station, monitoring the final preparations. Around her, automated systems worked with inhuman precision, assembling devices that pushed the absolute limits of human technology. Status report, she called to her team. Chief Engineer Liu Wei checked his displays. All quantum fabrication systems are online. Project Prometheus is ready for activation on Admiral Chen's signal. Dr. Reyes nodded. Project Prometheus represented humanity's greatest achievement and most desperate gamble. Unable to match alien technology through conventional means, human scientists had taken a different approach. Instead of trying to build better starships or more powerful weapons, they had focused on the one thing humans excelled at: rapid adaptation and mass production. The quantum fabrication network could produce any component that had been pre-programmed into its memory banks. More importantly, it could modify those components in real time based on incoming sensor data. Humanity couldn't predict exactly what alien technology they would face, but they could build systems capable of adapting to whatever they encountered. Incoming transmission from Earth Defense Command, announced Communications Specialist Park Min-jun. Admiral Chen's voice filled the station. All stations, this is Admiral Chen. Hegemony deadline expires in 14 minutes. Prepare for Operation Prometheus activation on my mark. Dr. Reyes felt her heart racing. 14 minutes until humanity either proved its worth among the stars or faced extinction. She thought about her daughter, safely evacuated to one of the deep space shelters that officially didn't exist, and hoped they had calculated correctly. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Chen stood before a holographic display showing the tactical situation. 12 hegemony warships maintained their threatening positions, while hundreds of primitive human satellites drifted innocuously in various orbits. To alien eyes, Earth's defenses looked pathetically inadequate. All stations report ready, Admiral, Colonel Tanaka announced. Very well. The moment their deadline expires, we show these invaders what humanity is truly capable of. She paused, looking around at the faces of men and women who represented every nation on Earth. Whatever happens in the next few hours, remember that we stand here not just for ourselves, but for every future generation of humans who will look to the stars. 3 light years away, Ambassador Zeth Kree watched the unfolding drama with growing anxiety. Her monitoring station had detected massive energy buildups throughout the Sol system, but the patterns made no sense. The humans appeared to be powering up systems that her sensors couldn't even identify. Ambassador Zimtel called urgently. I'm detecting quantum resonance patterns throughout the Sol system, but the technology involved, it's like nothing in our databases. Zeth Kree studied the data streams. Her people's technology was among the most advanced in the galaxy, yet they were seeing energy signatures that defied classification. Either the humans had developed something completely revolutionary, or her instruments were malfunctioning. Are the hegemony forces detecting these anomalies? Negative, Ambassador. Their sensor technology is primarily focused on conventional energy weapons and shield systems. They're designed to detect threats they understand. Ambassador Zeth Kree made a decision that would haunt her for years to come. Send an emergency transmission to the Galactic Council. Tell them we may have seriously misjudged Earth's capabilities. At exactly 72 hours after the ultimatum was issued, Fleet Commander Kethvar gave the order to commence bombardment. The lead hegemony cruiser's primary weapons charged to full power, targeting the largest human population center. Fida, Kethvar commanded. The devastating energy beam lanced toward Earth's surface, carrying enough power to vaporize several city blocks. It struck what appeared to be empty air 300 kilometers above the planet's surface, and simply stopped. What happened? Kethvar ruwarit. Why didn't our weapons reach the surface? Tactical Officer Remnock frantically worked his controls. Unknown, Commander. Our sensors detect no shields or defensive systems, but our beam was completely absorbed by something. That something was humanity's first surprise, a planetary defense grid that existed only when needed. Using principles borrowed from quantum field theory, human engineers had created a system that could manifest energy-absorbing barriers anywhere in near-Earth space. The barriers didn't exist until they were needed, making them essentially invisible to conventional sensors. Admiral Chun smiled grimly as the holographic display showed the alien weapon's energy being harmlessly dispersed into Earth's magnetic field. Well, that got their attention. All units, execute Operation Prometheus. Across the Sol system, hundreds of primitive satellites suddenly shed their disguises. What had appeared to be simple communications equipment revealed itself as something far more sinister. Kinetic weapons platforms capable of accelerating projectiles to significant percentages of light speed. But that wasn't the most devastating surprise humanity had prepared. The real shock came when the asteroid manufacturing facilities revealed their true purpose. Using quantum fabrication technology, they began producing guided missiles at an impossible rate, dozens per minute from each facility. But these weren't ordinary missiles. Each one was custom-built in real time, based on sensor data from the target it was designed to destroy. The first wave of human weapons reached the hegemony fleet within minutes. Despite their advanced shields, the alien commanders watched in disbelief as human projectiles adapted their approach vectors and payload configurations to exploit weaknesses that shouldn't have been detectable. How are they penetrating our shields? Kethvar demanded, watching 3 of his escort vessels suffer critical damage from weapons that should have been centuries beyond human capability. His sensor operator's voice was filled with confusion. Commander, these projectiles are modifying themselves during flight. Each one is different, specifically designed to counter our defensive systems. What the hegemony didn't understand was that humanity had spent decades studying every piece of alien technology they could acquire through various means. While they couldn't replicate superior alien engineering, they could identify its limitations. The quantum fabrication system used that intelligence to build weapons tailored to exploit specific vulnerabilities in real time. Dr. Reyes watched the battle unfold from Ceres Station with a mixture of pride and terror. Lou, are you seeing this? The adaptive targeting system is working even better than we hoped. The hegemony shields are designed to stop known weapon types. Chief Engineer Lou replied. But our missiles are rebuilding themselves every few seconds. Their computers can't adapt fast enough to counter weapons that keep changing. As the battle progressed, more hegemony vessels found themselves under assault from weapons that defied their understanding of human technology. Kinetic projectiles struck with pinpoint accuracy, guided by AI systems that had been fed detailed analysis of alien defensive patterns. Energy weapons fired from platforms that appeared and disappeared like ghosts, using stealth technology that rendered them effectively invisible until the moment they fired. But humanity's most devastating weapon wasn't technological, it was psychological. Every human military leader had studied the same historical examples. When facing superior forces, the key to victory wasn't matching enemy capabilities, but rather convincing them that continued fighting was more costly than retreat. The goal wasn't to destroy the hegemony fleet, but to make them believe that humanity possessed capabilities far beyond what they had demonstrated. Admiral Chun opened a communication channel to the hegemony flagship. Fleet Commander Kethvar, this is Admiral Sarah Chun. You have now witnessed a small demonstration of human defensive capabilities. You have one opportunity to withdraw your forces before we escalate to systems your species hasn't encountered before. The alien commander's response crackled with rage and confusion. Impossible. Our intelligence indicated you were primitive. How do you possess such technology? Commander, Admiral Chun replied calmly. You made the same mistake that many have made throughout human history. You assume that because we are young, we are weak. Because our technology appears simple, it is inferior. We have had a very long time to think about what we would do when someone more powerful decided to threaten our world. On his bridge, Kethvar stared at tactical displays showing 6 of his vessels damaged, and his entire fleet under assault from weapons that appeared from nowhere and struck with impossible precision. His military doctrine had no protocols for this situation. Sir, Remnock called urgently. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy buildups throughout their system. Whatever they're planning to use next. Kethvar watched the displays showing human energy signatures that his computers couldn't even categorize. The humans were right about one thing. His species had encountered nothing like this before. For the first time in his military career, Fleet Commander Kethvar faced a decision that went against every instinct his species possessed. But As he watched human weapons continuing to adapt and evolve in real time, targeting his ships with increasing effectiveness, he began to understand why the galaxy might have underestimated this young species. Humanity had turned their apparent weakness into their greatest strength. They couldn't build the most advanced starships, so they had built the most adaptable weapons. They couldn't match alien technology, so they had created systems that could counter any technology they encountered. Most importantly, they had prepared for this day not with arrogance, but with the grim determination of a species that had learned to survive by refusing to accept defeat. The battle for Earth's independence was just beginning, but already the hegemony was learning what the rest of the galaxy would soon discover. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their refusal to surrender, no matter how impossible the odds appeared to be. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened barely 6 hours after the first shots were fired in the Sol system. Ambassador Zeth Kree found herself at the center of attention as representatives from 300 species demanded explanations for the impossible reports streaming in from the Outer Rim. High Arbiter Veltar's ancient features showed strain as he called for order. Counselor Zeth Kree, your monitoring stations are our only reliable source of intelligence from the Sol system. Please share your observations with the Assembly. Zeth Kree's crystalline form dimmed with uncertainty. Honored Arbiters, what we are witnessing contradicts every analysis we have made about human capabilities. The hegemony fleet, which should have overwhelmed Earth's defenses within minutes, has been fought to a standstill. A wave of skeptical murmurs rippled through the Assembly. Counselor Mordak's mandibles clicked in disbelief. You're suggesting that primitive chemical rockets are defeating hegemony battle cruisers. No, Zeth Kree replied carefully. The humans are not using primitive technology. They're using technology that our sensors can barely detect, let alone understand. Watch. The holographic display above the assembly chamber flickered to life, showing real-time footage from the battle around Earth. The assembled representatives watched in stunned silence as human weapons appeared from apparently empty space, struck hegemony vessels with devastating precision, then vanished again before return fire could be directed at them. Representative Corinne leaned forward, her scaled features flushed with concentration. The projectile velocities alone should be beyond human capabilities. How are they achieving such acceleration without massive energy signatures? That's what troubles me most, Zeth Kree admitted. Our analysis suggests they're using principles we don't fully understand. Each human weapon appears to be unique, custom-built for its specific target. Dr. Vexnil, the Council's chief technology assessor, manipulated the holographic controls to zoom in on one of the human attacks. This is impossible. Look at this projectile's flight pattern. It's modifying its trajectory, composition, and targeting systems while in transit. No known technology can fabricate complex systems at such speeds. The chamber fell silent as the implications began to sink in. If humans possess technology that the galaxy's most advanced civilizations couldn't understand, then every assumption about Earth's place in the cosmic hierarchy would need to be reconsidered. High Arbiter Melthoin rarely spoke during council sessions, but her telepathic voice now filled every mind in the chamber. Perhaps the question is not how they achieve this technology, but why we fail to detect its development. Ambassador Zeth Kree felt a chill of realization. Because we were looking for a technology that resembled our own. Humans appear to have taken a completely different approach to engineering. Instead of building superior individual systems, they created adaptive networks that modify themselves based on encountered threats. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, the battle had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic military history. Fleet Commander Keth Var found himself fighting an enemy that literally learned from each exchange of fire, becoming more dangerous with every passing minute. Status report. He barked at his increasingly frantic bridge crew. Tactical Officer Remnock's voice betrayed his confusion. Commander, we've lost 8 vessels to critical damage. But, more concerning, their weapons are adapting faster than our computers can analyze them. Each wave of human projectiles is more effective than the last. Kethvar studied the tactical displays with growing unease. His fleet had been reduced to 4 operational battle cruisers, while Earth's defenses appeared to be growing stronger. Worse, long-range sensors showed massive energy buildups throughout the human system that suggested they were preparing something even more devastating. Sir, called Communications Officer Thekmau. We're receiving another transmission from the human commander. On screen, Admiral Chen's image appeared, and Kethvar was struck by the calm confidence in her expression. This was not the face of a desperate primitive fighting for survival, but of a military commander who held superior position. Fleet Commander Kethvar, Admiral Chen began, you have now experienced our initial defensive capabilities. I'm authorized to offer you one final opportunity to withdraw your forces beyond our system's boundaries. If you choose to continue this engagement, we will demonstrate why humanity has survived every challenge it has encountered throughout its history. Kethvar's pride warred with tactical reality. Human Commander, your species cannot possibly possess technology superior to the hegemony. What you have shown so far must represent the limits of your capabilities. Admiral Chen's smile was genuinely sympathetic. Commander, that's exactly what we were counting on you to believe. You've seen our defensive systems. Would you like a demonstration of our offensive capabilities? Before Kethvar could respond, his sensor operator's voice filled the bridge with urgent alarm. Commander, massive energy spike detected throughout their system. Unknown vessels approaching from multiple vectors. The tactical display updated to show contacts moving toward the hegemony fleet from all directions, from the inner planets, the asteroid belt, and even from beyond the system's outer reaches. But these weren't the primitive spacecraft his intelligence had reported. These vessels moved with speed and precision that matched or exceeded hegemony technology. How many ships are they deploying? Kethvar demanded. Unknown, sir. Our sensors are detecting between 50 and 200 contacts, but the numbers keep changing. Some appear to be splitting into multiple vessels, while others are merging together. What the hegemony fleet was encountering was humanity's second major technological breakthrough. Modular spacecraft that could reconfigure themselves for any mission. Each vessel was actually a swarm of interconnected components that could separate for stealth operations or combine for maximum firepower. Dr. James Morrison, floating in the command module of the Earth Defense Fleet's flagship, watched the hegemony confusion with professional satisfaction. The modular design is working perfectly. They can't get accurate counts because our ships literally aren't the same configuration from one moment to the next. His chief engineer, Commander Rosa Gutierrez, monitored the fleet's coordination systems. All swarm units are responding perfectly. The AI network is maintaining perfect coordination across 300 individual components configured into 47 apparent vessels. Dr. Morrison nodded. This was humanity's answer to superior individual technology. Instead of building better starships, they had created a fleet that operated as a single, adaptive organism. Each component was relatively simple, but together they formed something far more capable than the sum of their parts. Prepare for Alpha Strike formation, he ordered. Let's show our visitors what human tactical innovation looks like. The human fleet suddenly shifted formation in a way that made Kethvar's tactical computer crash from trying to track too many simultaneous position changes. When the sensors recalibrated, the scattered human vessels had somehow formed a perfect three-dimensional cage around his remaining fleet. Impossible remnoc whispered. No fleet can coordinate that precisely without massive communication delays. But humanity had solved that problem too. Instead of traditional communication systems, their fleet operated through quantum entanglement networks that provided instantaneous coordination across any distance. Each component knew the status and intention of every other component in real time. Admiral Chen's voice filled the hegemony bridge again. Commander, you are now surrounded by 47 vessels, each carrying weapons specifically designed to counter your defensive systems. However, I'm going to offer you something your species has probably never encountered: mercy. Kethvar felt his world paradigm shifting. Throughout hegemony history, superior forces showed mercy to inferior ones, not the reverse. What do you want? I want you to return to your people with a message, Admiral Chen replied. Tell them that Earth is claimed and defended by humanity. Tell them that we have no interest in expansion or conquest, but we will defend ourselves against any threat with capabilities they cannot imagine. Most importantly, tell them that humans prefer cooperation to conflict, but we are very, very good at conflict when it becomes necessary. On the bridge of his flagship, Kethvar faced the most difficult decision of his military career. Every instinct screamed at him to fight to the death rather than accept defeat from primitives. But the tactical situation was undeniable. His fleet was outgunned, outmaneuvered, and facing technology that his species couldn't counter. "If we withdraw," he said carefully, "what guarantee do we have that your species won't pursue our fleet?" Admiral Chen's expression grew serious. "Commander, humans have a saying, we don't start fights, but we finish them. You started this fight when you invaded our system. We're offering you the chance to end it by leaving. If you choose to stay, we will finish it in a way that ensures no other species ever makes the same mistake." The threat was delivered with calm professionalism, but HFY could hear the absolute certainty behind it. These humans weren't bluffing. They were prepared to destroy his entire fleet if he forced them to. Worse, the strategic implications were staggering. If Earth possessed this level of technology, what other primitive species might be hiding similar capabilities? How many times had the hegemony overlooked dangerous civilizations because they appeared technologically inferior? "Very well," HFY finally said. "We will withdraw. But this matter will be reported to Hegemony High Command. They'll want to understand how you achieved such capabilities." "They're welcome to ask," Admiral Chen replied. "But, Commander, next time someone issues a warning, you might want to take it seriously." As the remaining hegemony vessels began their retreat toward the edge of the Sol system, Ambassador Zethkree watched from her monitoring station with a mixture of awe and concern. The humans had just defeated a hegemony battle fleet using technology that defied galactic understanding. "Ambassador," Zimtel called urgently, "I'm receiving priority communications from 17 different council members. They're all asking the same question, which is, if humans can defeat the hegemony, what exactly are they capable of? And should the council be worried about this new power?" Zethkree studied the data streams showing human fleet movements as they escorted the retreating hegemony vessels to the system's edge. There was a precision and restraint in their actions that spoke of military discipline far beyond what anyone had expected from a young species. "Zimtel," she said quietly, "I think we need to completely reconsider everything we thought we knew about Earth. And I suspect the Galactic Council is about to have some very interesting discussions about humanity's future. The battle for Earth was over, but the real challenges were just beginning. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible, by defeating one of the most feared military forces in known space. Now, they would have to deal with the consequences of that victory, and the galaxy would have to decide what to do about this new power that had appeared seemingly overnight among stars. 3 weeks after the Battle of Sol, the Galactic Council chambers buzzed with an energy unseen for centuries. Representatives from species across the galaxy had traveled vast distances to witness what many were calling the most significant paradigm shift in galactic politics since the Council's founding. At the center of the chamber, a figure that would have seemed impossibly ordinary just months before now commanded the attention of 300 advanced civilizations. Admiral Sarah Chun, representing humanity's first official delegation to the Galactic Council, stood calmly before beings whose species had mastered interstellar travel when Earth was still in its prehistoric age. High Arbiter Veltar's ancient voice carried across the chamber. "Admiral Chun, your species' actions in the Sol system have created unprecedented circumstances. The Council requires clarification on humanity's intentions and capabilities." Admiral Chen had prepared for this moment since the day humanity first detected alien signals. Her response would shape Earth's relationship with the galaxy for generations to come. "Honored arbiters, humanity's intentions remain exactly what they were before the hegemony invasion. We wish to develop peacefully while protecting our sovereignty and our people." Counselor Mordak's mandibles clicked aggressively. "Yet you demonstrated military capabilities that our best analysis cannot explain. How do we know your species won't use such power to expand aggressively?" The question hung in the chamber like a physical presence. Admiral Chun had expected this concern. It was the same fear that had driven human military planning for decades. When superior technology meets inferior civilizations, the results were historically predictable. Because, Counselor Mordak, humanity's greatest strength has never been our ability to conquer, but our ability to adapt and survive. We developed defensive capabilities because we knew contact with spacefaring species was inevitable. We prepared for hostility because our own history taught us that first contact is often violent. Ambassador Zethkree rose from her delegation seating. Admiral, my people have studied human history extensively. Your species has a concerning pattern of warfare and conquest throughout your development. Admiral Chen nodded thoughtfully. You're absolutely right, Ambassador. Humans have fought terrible wars among ourselves. But we've also learned from those conflicts. Every major war in our recent history has been followed by unprecedented cooperation and progress. We have a saying, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Humanity remembers. She gestured to the holographic display that materialized above the chamber. Today, Admiral Chun represents a united Earth. Every nation, every culture, every military force on our planet contributed to our defense against the hegemony. That level of cooperation didn't happen overnight. It took centuries of learning that our survival depends on working together. Representative Karen leaned forward intently. But, Admiral, your technology suggests capabilities that could threaten any civilization in this galaxy. The adaptive weapons, the quantum fabrication, the modular fleets, these advances could reshape the balance of power across known space. Admiral Chun smiled slightly. Representative Karen raises an important point. Yes, humanity has developed new approaches to technology and warfare. But perhaps the Council should ask why we chose the specific technologies we developed. Dr. Marcus Webb, who had accompanied Admiral Chun as humanity's chief science advisor, activated his presentation system. If I may, Admiral, honored Council members, human technology reflects human philosophy. We didn't try to build the biggest ships or the most powerful weapons. Instead, we focus on adaptability, cooperation, and defense. The holographic display showed detailed schematics of human defensive systems. Our quantum fabrication networks require cooperation between multiple installations across vast distances. Our modular fleets only function when every component works in perfect coordination. Our adaptive weapons are specifically designed to counter aggression while minimizing collateral damage. High Arbiter Melthuan's telepathic voice filled every mind present. Dr. Webb, are you suggesting that human technology cannot be used offensively? Quite the opposite, Dr. Webb replied. Our technology could be devastatingly effective in offensive operations. But it requires the kind of coordination and cooperation that humanity has spent centuries developing. A species that relied on conquest and domination would find our technological approach incompatible with their goals. The implications of this statement rippled through the chamber. Several council members exchanged glances as they began to understand what humanity had actually accomplished. They hadn't just developed new technology. They had developed technology that only worked for a cooperative, defensive-minded civilization. Counselor Mordak clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. You're saying that your military technology is inherently defensive in nature. Admiral Chen stepped forward. More than that, Counselor. Our technology only reaches its full potential when used by a united civilization focused on protection rather than conquest. An aggressive species could copy our fabrication techniques or our modular designs, but they couldn't replicate the cooperation necessary to make them truly effective. Ambassador Zethkree's crystalline form brightened with understanding. Fascinating. You've essentially created a technological approach that favors defenders over aggressors. Exactly, Admiral Chen confirmed. We learned from studying galactic history, Ambassador. Most species achieve interstellar capability through military expansion. They develop powerful individual weapons and ships designed for conquest. But humanity took a different path. Dr. Webb manipulated the holographic display to show comparative analyses. We studied every recorded first contact scenario in galactic history. The pattern was clear. Technological superiority led to conquest. So we developed technology specifically designed to negate that advantage. High Arbiter Veltar leaned forward with obvious interest. Elaborate, Dr. Webb. Our adaptive weapon systems are designed to counter any technology they encounter, regardless of its superiority. Our quantum fabrication networks can respond to threats faster than any individual weapon system can be deployed. Our modular fleets can reconfigure themselves to match any tactical situation. The chamber fell silent as the assembled representatives contemplated the revolutionary implications of humanity's approach. They had assumed that technological advancement inevitably led to military dominance. Humanity had proven that technology could be developed specifically to prevent such dominance. Representative Karun was the first to break the silence. Admiral Chun, are you willing to share these technologies with council member species? The question Admiral Chun had been dreading had finally arrived. Humanity's technology could revolutionize galactic civilization, but sharing it would also eliminate their defensive advantages. Representative Karun, humanity is willing to share our technological principles with any species that demonstrates the cooperative mindset necessary to use them effectively. But we've learned from our own history that technology alone is never enough. She gestured to her delegation, which included representatives from every major Earth nation. What made our defense successful wasn't just our weapons. It was our ability to coordinate the resources of an entire planet toward a common goal. That level of cooperation took humanity thousands of years to achieve. Counselor Mordak clicked his mandibles in what his species considered laughter. Are you suggesting that other species are incapable of such cooperation? Not at all, Admiral Chun replied diplomatically. But I am suggesting that true cooperation cannot be imposed from outside. Each species must develop it according to their own nature and history. High Arbiter Melthuan's telepathic presence grew stronger. Admiral Chun, humanity's victory over the hegemony has already changed galactic politics. Aggressive species are reassessing their expansion plans. Defensive species are requesting alliance talks. The balance of power has shifted. Admiral Chun nodded soberly. We understand the responsibility that comes with our capabilities, Honored Arbiter. Humanity doesn't want to become the galaxy's policeman, but we also won't allow other species to suffer what the hegemony attempted to inflict upon us. Ambassador Zethkree rose again. Admiral, what does humanity propose as the path forward? Admiral Chun had prepared for this moment her entire career. Humanity proposes a new model for galactic civilization. Instead of expansion through conquest, we suggest development through cooperation. Instead of might making right, we propose that technology serves life. The holographic display showed Earth's proposed framework for interstellar relations. We're willing to establish defensive partnerships with any species that faces aggressive expansion. We'll share our adaptive technology principles with civilizations that demonstrate peaceful intentions. Most importantly, we'll help develop new models for technological advancement that favor cooperation over competition. High Arbiter Veltar studied the proposal with obvious interest. And if aggressive species reject this cooperative model, Admiral Chin's expression grew serious. Then, they'll discover what the hegemony learned, that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our absolute refusal to surrender in the face of oppression, combined with our ability to turn any challenge into an opportunity for innovation. Dr. Webb added, the beautiful irony, Honored Arbiters, is that the more aggressive a species becomes, the more effective our defensive systems become at countering them. We've essentially created technology that grows stronger in response to hostile intent. The chamber erupted in discussion as representatives began to grasp the full implications of humanity's approach. They weren't just offering new technology, they were proposing a fundamental restructuring of how galactic civilization approached technological development and interspecies relations. Counselor Mordak raised a manipulator for attention. Admiral Chun, assuming the Council accepts humanity's proposal, what guarantees do we have that your species won't eventually use these capabilities for conquest? Admiral Chun smiled. Counselor, I can give you the same guarantee that our technology itself provides. Humanity's capabilities only function at full effectiveness when used for cooperative defense. The moment we became conquerors, our own technology would work against us. She gestured to her diverse delegation. But, more importantly, you have the guarantee of human nature itself. We've spent our entire history learning that cooperation produces better results than conquest. We've built a civilization based on that principle. We're not going to abandon it now that we've reached the stars. The debate that followed lasted for hours, but the outcome was increasingly inevitable. Humanity had done something unprecedented in galactic history. They had achieved technological superiority specifically designed to prevent the abuse of that superiority. As the session moved toward its conclusion, Ambassador Zeth Kree found herself reconsidering everything her species thought they knew about technological development and galactic politics. Humanity hadn't just defeated the hegemony. They had proven that there were alternatives to the endless cycle of technological advancement leading to military dominance that had characterized galactic civilization for millennia. The question now was whether the rest of the galaxy was ready to embrace that alternative or whether humanity would find themselves defending not just their own world, but their revolutionary vision of what galactic civilization could become. 6 months after humanity's formal acceptance into the Galactic Council, Ambassador Sarah Chun stood in a newly constructed Earth embassy on the Council station, reviewing reports that would have been unimaginable a year earlier. The galaxy had changed, and humanity found itself at the center of the most significant transformation in recorded galactic history. Status report. She called to her senior staff, a team that now included representatives from 12 different species working alongside human personnel. Commander Lisa Park, formerly Admiral Chen's chief communications officer, consulted her multi-species datapad. The Defensive Alliance now includes 43 member species, with 7 more applications pending review. The Technological Cooperation Initiative has successfully integrated adaptive defense systems into the fleets of 19 civilizations. Ambassador Chen nodded with satisfaction. The Defensive Alliance had been humanity's first major proposal to the Council, a mutual protection agreement that used human adaptive technology to create an interconnected defense network spanning multiple star systems. Any member species under attack could instantly call upon the defensive resources of the entire alliance. What about the hegemony situation? Dr. Yuki Tanaka, now serving as Earth's chief xenotechnology specialist, pulled up a holographic display. The Hegemony Collective has officially requested negotiation talks. Their expansion has stalled completely. 17 of their target systems have joined our defensive alliance, and their military commanders are reporting that conquest is no longer economically viable. The irony wasn't lost on Ambassador Chun. By creating technology specifically designed to make aggression ineffective, humanity had accidentally solved one of the galaxy's oldest problems. The Hegemony Collective, faced with targets that could defend themselves indefinitely, have been forced to reconsider their entire approach to expansion. Any word from Fleet Commander Kethvar? Yes, Ambassador. He's requesting permission to visit Earth as part of the Hegemony negotiation delegation. Apparently, he wants to study human military philosophy firsthand. Ambassador Chen smiled. Kethvar had become something of a celebrity in galactic military circles after his detailed report on humanity's capabilities. His analysis had forced every major power to reconsider their understanding of warfare and technology. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's new director of interspecies cooperation, entered the briefing room carrying news that would reshape the galaxy once again. Ambassador, we've received the final analysis from the Council's Technology Assessment Committee, and they've confirmed what we suspected. Humanity's cooperative technology model is spreading faster than anyone anticipated. 26 species have successfully adapted our quantum fabrication principles. 14 have implemented modular fleet designs. Most importantly, 7 species have reported that their military conflicts with neighboring civilizations have ended because both sides now possess effective defensive capabilities. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just defended Earth. They had accidentally triggered a technological revolution that was making traditional warfare obsolete across large sections of the galaxy. Ambassador Chen reviewed the data with growing amazement. Elena, are you telling me that we've actually made galactic warfare less common? More than that, Ambassador. We've made expansion through conquest economically and militarily non-viable for any species that adopts our technology. The Council's economic analysis suggests that cooperative development is now more profitable than aggressive expansion for most civilizations. Meanwhile, 3-star systems away, Ambassador Zeth Kree stood in her people's most advanced research facility, studying the latest result from their human technology integration project. What her team had discovered would have been considered impossible just months earlier. Dr. Zimtel, she called to her former assistant, now promoted to chief researcher, show me the productivity comparisons. Zimtel activated a holographic display that showed economic and technological output data from across Christosian space. Ambassador, since we implemented human cooperative fabrication techniques, our technological development rate has increased by 400%. More importantly, our resource conflicts with neighboring species have decreased by 90%. Explain the correlation. It's simple, Ambassador. When any species can fabricate what they need using quantum technology, territorial expansion becomes unnecessary. When defensive capabilities prevent successful conquest, warfare becomes pointless. Humanity has created a technological foundation for genuine galactic peace. Ambassador Zethkrees studied the data with a mixture of wonder and concern. Zimtel, what are the implications if every species in the galaxy adopts human technology principles? Based on current projection models, Ambassador, we could see the end of resource wars, territorial conflicts, and military expansion within 50 galactic standard years. But there's one significant concern, which is humanity becomes the de facto technological leader of the galaxy, not through conquest or intimidation, but because every other species becomes dependent on technological principles they pioneered. Ambassador Zethkrees felt a chill of realization. Humanity had achieved something that no species in galactic history had managed. They had made themselves indispensable not through force, but through usefulness. Back on Earth, in the deep space monitoring facility that had coordinated humanity's defense against the hegemony, Dr. Marcus Webb reviewed reports that painted a picture of galactic transformation beyond their wildest expectations. Sarah, he called to Admiral Chun via quantum communication. You need to see the latest intelligence reports. Admiral Chen's image appeared in the facility's main holographic display. What is it, Marcus? The Galactic Council Strategic Analysis Division has just published their assessment of current political trends. According to their projections, within 20 years, over 70% of known civilizations will have adopted some form of human defensive technology. Admiral Chun studied the data streaming across her display. That's faster adoption than we projected. What are the implications? Dr. Webb manipulated the holographic controls to show expanded analysis. Sarah, we've accidentally created a situation where cooperation is more profitable than conquest, defense is more effective than offense, and technological sharing produces better results than technological hoarding. That sounds like good news, Marcus. It is, but it also means that humanity has become the central technological pillar supporting galactic civilization. If we make a mistake, if our technology fails, or if we make the wrong political decisions, we could destabilize the entire galaxy. Admiral Chun was quiet for several moments as she contemplated the enormous responsibility that had fallen upon her species. Marcus, when we prepared for first contact, we planned for many scenarios. We never planned for this one. What do you mean? We never planned for success, Marcus. We planned to survive contact with hostile species. We planned to defend ourselves against superior technology. We never planned for the possibility that our survival strategies would reshape galactic civilization. Dr. Webb nodded soberly. Sarah, I've been analyzing the historical parallels. Throughout human history, revolutionary technologies have always created unintended consequences. Fire led to agriculture, which led to civilization. The printing press led to literacy, which led to democracy. Nuclear technology led to both weapons and power generation. And quantum adaptive technology is leading to the potential end of militaristic expansion as a viable strategy for any galactic civilization. We've created technology that makes peace more profitable than war. Meanwhile, in the council chambers, High Arbiter Veltar presided over a debate that would have been inconceivable before humanity's arrival. The topic under discussion was not territorial disputes or trade disagreements, but rather the establishment of new protocols for technological sharing and cooperative development. Representative Karun addressed the assembly. The success of human defensive technology has created an unprecedented situation. Species that have historically been enemies are now requesting alliance partnerships based on mutual defense agreements. Counselor Mordak's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The economic data supports this trend. Military conquest has become cost-prohibitive for any species facing opponents with adaptive defensive systems. Cooperative development produces superior results for all participants. High Arbiter Melthuan's telepathic presence filled the chamber. The Council faces a fundamental question. Do we formalize humanity's technological principles as the standard for galactic civilization, or do we allow the current informal adoption to continue? Ambassador Zethkree rose to address the assembly. Honored arbiters, my people have extensively analyzed the implications of widespread human technology adoption. The results suggest that we are witnessing the most significant paradigm shift in galactic history. She activated a holographic display showing economic and political trend analysis. Military conflicts have decreased by 60% in regions where human defensive technology has been adopted. Economic cooperation has increased by 300%. Most significantly, species that were previously considered incompatible for peaceful coexistence are now establishing successful trade partnerships. High Arbiter Veltar leaned forward with interest. Ambassador Zethkree, are you suggesting that human technology is changing the fundamental nature of interspecies relations? More than that, Honored Arbiter, human technology is proving that aggressive expansion is an evolutionary dead end. Species that adopt cooperative approaches consistently outperform those that rely on military dominance. The debate that followed lasted for days, but the conclusion was inevitable. The Council voted unanimously to establish the Cooperative Development Protocol as the standard framework for technological advancement and interspecies relations throughout Council space. Under the new protocol, any species could access human adaptive technology principles in exchange for committing to peaceful development and mutual defense agreements. Military expansion would be met with coordinated defensive responses from all protocol members. Most importantly, technological advancement would be shared rather than hoarded, creating benefits for all participating civilizations. As Ambassador Chun received news of the Council's decision, she reflected on how dramatically the galaxy had changed since that day when humanity issued its first ultimatum to the hegemony. Commander Park, she called to her aide, prepare a transmission to Earth. Tell them that humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization wasn't our weapons or our technology. What should I tell them it was, Ambassador? Tell them it was our refusal to accept that might makes right. Tell them that by refusing to surrender to superior force, we've taught the galaxy that there are better ways to achieve security and prosperity than conquest and domination. Ambassador Chen looked out at the stars visible through the embassy's observation deck, knowing that humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had become the dominant influence in galactic civilization not by conquering other species, but by showing them a better way to live among the stars. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity had ensured that change would be for the better. In the end, humanity's greatest victory wasn't defeating the hegemony or developing revolutionary technology. Their greatest victory was proving that in a universe full of species capable of conquest, the species that chose cooperation would ultimately inherit the stars. The age of galactic warfare was ending, not with a final battle, but with the simple recognition that working together produced better results than fighting each other. And it had all started with a single species that refused to surrender when faced with impossible odds, choosing instead to find a better way to survive among the infinite possibilities of space.